So Stuart Dahlquist, founding member of Sun-O and current band leader of ASVA, and has had his hands in many other things. I had the distinct honor of having him ask me to lay down some noise, textural, whatever the hell it's going to end up being for a really cool new song that he's producing. And he wanted me to document some kind of the process of what I'm going to do. So I actually haven't even done anything. I just set up the modular, the Euro rack, in a way that I thought would yield some interesting results. And I'm going to go over what each module does and kind of what I think how it's going to help. So this is Hex Inverter Mutant Brain. Essentially what this is doing is it's taking MIDI and it's converting it into CV and gate, which is kind of the language that modular uses. And MIDI is the language that my Digitact uses, and basically almost all musical gear. It stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface. But this is not digital, so we need to take digital and turn it into voltage. So what this is going to do is it's going to kind of translate any info I take from my Digitact or my computer and put it into kind of how the modular interprets it. I know there's some glare, but this is a noise engineering mimetic digitalis. Essentially, this is a sequencer. And this is going to give me my rhythmic input and my melodic input. And it has 4 channels of that. This is a really, really, really cool module. I think this should be, if you're looking into getting any kind of modular where you're going to be doing any kind of rhythmic stuff, it's very limited. It's only doing 16th notes. And it's only, you can't actually, you can program the notes into it, but it's actually kind of difficult. So, for me, limitation is what gets me to make music. If I have all the options in the world, I get overwhelmed. I can't do it. That's just my workflow. Unfortunately, my workflow requires thousands of dollars worth of gear, but your results may vary. This is very, so this is going to provide kind of some movement within the piece. It's going to be going very slowly. I may use it, I may not. I may just do textural shit. I have no idea. But this is, you can pretty much utilize this however you want. This is just a switcher. These are on-off switches. These tap into these, so I can actually take 2 separate things out, put them where I want. This is a Chaos Batumi. This is 4 LFOs. If you don't know what an LFO is, well, you should look it up. This gives me sine waves, saw waves, square waves, and having 4, I have this in expert mode, which is a firmware that you update to it, so these can all interact relative to each other. It's some deep esoteric shit. This is a attenuverter, not an attenuator, which means if I put one of these in here, I can make it, I can attenuate its effect. If it's up here, that LFO will be like, woo, woo, woo. And if I bring it down a little bit, it's much smaller. But the cool thing about this is I can invert that LFO and make it basically, again, it's 180 degrees out of phase with itself, which is cool. And I can also do linear, exponential stuff. This is a Ruine filter from Noise Engineering again. You'll probably tell by the end of this video that I'm a noise engineering fan. This is basically your average filter and distortion unit, low pass filter. This is a ALM pip slope function generator, which is essentially like, it can be either an envelope or it can be an LFO, but I can actually change the linearity of the slopes. I realize that people may not understand what I'm talking about, but it's a lot of stuff. This is basically the same thing as this. Attenuator, 4 attenuators. So this is an attenuator, this is an attenuverter. So this only lowers the level. It doesn't actually flip it. This is the heart of the sunrise right here. This is the Loquelic Iteratas from Noise Engineering. It is a wavetable oscillator with various kind of synthesis algorithms that you can use. The guy who made this is like making these synth algorithms off of essays from dudes like in the 20s. And it's very rare that you get a piece of musical equipment that you can't find the end to. And this is very much that. This is basically what's going to be making the sound. Everything here is what's going to manipulate all of the functions on here. And this, if you're getting the modular, stop paying attention so much to the oscillators. It's all this shit that matters. How you move, how you wiggle the thing. This is a Syncbacina, again, a noise engineering, low pass gate, VCA-ish sort of thing. It's based off of Buchla, you know, Morton Sabachnik, Terry Riley. They were guys that used Buchla synths, and this is kind of inspired by that. This is a Polyvox filter from Pico Synthesis in Latvia. This is based off of the Russian Polyvox synth, which was basically the Russians going, oh, you think you can make synthesizer, Moog? We make synthesizer better. And it's, in a way, the Polyvox stuff was just dirty, nasty, all military grade components, you know, tolerances. Pfft, that's, you know, that's how Russian shit keeps working, is because the tolerances are low and you can fix it. So this is just a real grungy, you know, character. I love this thing. This is a Wmd Doppler Delay. It's a bucket brigade delay. You can look that up. This I can, you know, add a lot more atmosphere. And this is a bubble sound instrument. This just takes modular level, which is much hotter than line level, and kind of brings it down to line level. Or else I'm going to be really distorting my stuff. This is just the power for all of it, whatever. And this is a cool thing. This is the Neuneighbor. Oh man, that's fucking dusty as shit. Man, I hate fucking dust. That's a Neuneighbor Seraphim, which is a pedal that you can actually upload. You can make this a reverb pedal. You can make it a reverb shimmer pedal. You can make it a delay pedal. You can make it a vibrato. It's really, you can really kind of do a lot with that. And this I don't think I'm going to utilize, but I might. This is basically the big outboard version of this guy, but with an LFO and a lot more functionality. So we may or may not use this. I really use this as a rhythmic component, and we're not really going to be going rhythmic here. But yeah, so this is kind of the more or less the basic setup. I may use the Digitact, I don't know. I may just get an LFO from here and trigger that, and not actually use any kind of clocking. I don't know again, but this is where we're starting. And yeah, we'll see what we can do. Okay, so this is basically the setup that we're going to be using. I'm using Reaper. Reaper is basically giving me a clock track at 30 beats per minute, which this is then, I think, bringing up to 60 beats per minute. We're going to end up not using this because we're just going to kind of go freehand and see what we can do texturally. The LFO is going through the, all four are going through the attenuverter. I have it on something called Divide, which is taking that 30 beats per minute, and all of these are able to kind of subdivide and also multiply that. So, you know, depending on where I can move these, it'll be 60 or 120, or you get the idea. And then, so we don't have these huge sweeping LFOs. We're putting it through the attenuverter, and sometimes we're inverting that signal. And we're going to be using the pip slope is going to be taking a gate signal from here at 30 beats per minute. And that is going to be controlling the filter. So that's going to be giving you kind of a nice filter sweep, because we don't want things to get too crunchy. And then coming out of our LFO, we're going to be essentially turning these knobs. So the LFO, basically what the LFO does is it's turning these knobs very slightly. And That's going into our delay, which I'm not going to be controlling. I'm not going to be sending any CV because this thing gets real nasty real quick, which is what we like, I guess, in our modules. And that's going into our Noi neighbor. And it sounds a little something like this. And this can get obviously pretty nasty. Get that so you can hear it. So yeah, that's where we're at. I'm going to kind of be using that. I think that the track needs some kind of lower end, pulsating-y kind of spooky shit, and I think that that's what we're going to do. And I think it's sounding good. Boy, I sure hope that Stuart thinks so. But you know, I'm going to send him a bunch of tracks, and I'm kind of doing it so it's vaguely on time, but really whatever he wants to do is fine with me. He's the boss. But again, really honored to do this, and I hope what I offer is used and enhances the track. And thank you.